was probably about 10 or more years ago when the UNC Chapel Hill Asian Students Association asked me to come and speak to them about being a lawyer. So I was honored to go. I always like speaking with people and young people in general. If they want to pick my brain about legal careers, sure. I don't think I was that negative about the legal profession with them, but I did start out by asking people, how many of you plan on going to law school? There were probably at least 40 or 50 undergrad students at this event, and not a single one of them raised their hands and said they planned on going to law school. So that was kind of strange to then continue speaking on about my career and going to law school and everything. But in hindsight, I'm relieved that none of those kids wanted to go to law school, because it's not a guaranteed path towards having a job, much less a prestigious, high-paying job, much less having a career that you have studied hard for or prepared for within 10 years. You know, a lot of people wash out of the profession, and that's the dirty secret of the legal profession that nobody really talks about. Nobody tells you that when you're pre-law in college and all gung-ho about going to law school to save the world or something. But you know, that's just the reality, you know, based on all these friends of mine, relatives, friends of friends, family, friends, kids. You know, you look at a lot of people, if you even still keep in touch with people from law school, or, you know, just by Googling or LinkedIn or Facebook or something, you know, eventually you figure out, okay, looks like this person's not practicing law anymore. You know, I've heard of some people who seem to be pretty successful, you know, having good legal careers, but then come to find out that the person was suffering from severe depression or having some problems with drugs or alcohol, and just maybe depressed, and just quit the profession entirely to try to do something else that didn't wear them down as much. You also don't hear about document review. Now that's something you should ask those people who come over and try to market their law schools to you. You know, what percentage of your graduates wind up doing document review? You know, what is document review? I had no idea what that was. You know, when I was a pre-law, or even when I was in law school, I had no idea what career progression really meant when you're not in the top 5% of the graduating class with a prestigious federal clerkship or a nice job as an associate in some cushy corporate law firm in New York City waiting for you. So document review is basically a dead-end job that some students who graduate from law school wind up taking just to pay the bills. I never had to do document review, but I do know people who did it or continue to do it as a, quote, career because they can't find anything else to do, or maybe after a while they just don't care anymore. And document review is kind of, from what people have told me, they've said it's brainless. You know, you basically it's work that a high school graduate should be able to do if you're literate. And you sit in a room with a bunch of other people who have graduated from law school. Not all of them have passed a bar. Some document reviews do require that you have a bar license. Others just want somebody to be, quote, like a live click monkey. So you're sitting there in this like room in an office building in front of a computer the whole day, maybe getting paid $20 to $30 an hour, no benefits. And you just have to review tons and tons of documents that have been turned over, most likely in some sort of huge litigation project. So you're basically a contractor working for a company that then, you know, is farming you out to these big law firms that need peons to review their documents from litigation discovery. And they do keep close track of you. From someone I know who did do document review for a couple of years, she said like it made her feel like slitting her wrists every day. You know, you get treated like a little kid, If they wanted to go to the bathroom, they would have to go up to somebody who was like a monitor, who wasn't even a licensed attorney or anything. There was somebody that was there monitoring the document review people the whole day to make sure you were working. You know, you got to keep clicking that mouse, you know, keep looking at all those documents on that computer and keep scrolling and see if this is privileged or if this is some responsive document, something like that. So even if you had to go to the bathroom, you would have to check out with the monitor, and then they would keep track of how long you were out, because they didn't want people to be sort of running their own law practices on the side while doing document review, because I guess some people would just run off and go outside the building or run into the bathroom to make phone calls or do something if they were sort of half-heartedly trying to do a law practice on the side. This person also told me that she and another colleague at document review were humiliated because they got singled out for somebody ratted on them, saying that they were spending too much time in the break room talking or seemed to be having too much fun and weren't spending enough time working. So it is humiliating, because they would have to go in through the back door of some like fancy high-rise building, where at the top of the building was the nice law firm. That was where the real attorneys were and the law partners were. But the document review people who had also, you know, sweated through 3 years of law school, taken the bar exam, many of them were licensed attorneys that just couldn't find better jobs. They had to go in through the back door and be stuck in some like crappy basement. And then every so often, one of the real attorneys that worked for the real law firm on the top floors would come down and, you know, maybe bark orders at them, things like that. So it's a very hierarchical type of profession, where if you don't get a good job right out the bat, right when you graduate from law school, you didn't get an offer from some big law firm where you had worked as a 2L, then your career really isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to take a real big stroke of luck before you can break out of that mold of just fighting for the scraps and trying to work for smaller law firms or get a lower paying government job. Even those are becoming very competitive. Sometimes people go to law school thinking that, hey, I'm going to save the world. You know, like when I was in law school, or even before law school, you know, I was kind of pre-med at first, and then kind of got swept away by campus activism at UC Berkeley, became an ethnic studies major, and gave up the pre-med track. Not that I would have been that successful at it at UC Berkeley, because it was so freaking competitive to do well in chemistry class. So, yeah, so what am I trying to say? So basically, it's just, there's no guarantee. You know, getting a JD even from a top tier school doesn't mean that you're going to get any sort of great job when you graduate. It's kind of like a pipe dream that keeps people going because they don't know any better. You know, when I was still in law school or in undergrad, you know, I was kind of proud of myself for breaking the mold and wanting to go to law school, you know, because that wasn't something that lots of Asian Americans back then, say 20, 25 years ago, were talking about doing. But, you know, I kind of feel like if you're anybody watching this, you know, if you are like the quote stereotypical Asian person or stereotypical Asian American, and I know some people are going to get mad at me, but if you're good at math and science, then perhaps you really should consider going into the medical field. Okay, you don't hear about people getting their MD degrees and having no job after they pass all of their licensing exams. You know, you don't hear about some like terrible hierarchy where even if you do score a great, you know, sweet corporate job paying close to $200,000 a year plus bonuses, then after 3 years you get shown the door, and then you have to start from ground zero and can't find a job. You know, how many unemployed doctors are there? How many unemployed nurses or physical therapists or psychologists are there? I'm not sure. I mean, you do hear people complaining about those jobs also. I think for any sort of job, there are going to be downsides and stress and politics and dealing with people you don't like and gross stuff you have to do. But it's just pretty overwhelmingly bizarre how many law schools there are in this country, how many people continue to get that JD degree, and how many people can't even get real licensed attorney type legal jobs within 5 years of graduation. Now, I went to Georgetown, as I mentioned. Sometimes I'm proud of that. It was a good school. We had some really great, famous professors, some extremely intelligent classmates. It's a beautiful school, got to be in DC. But on the other hand, nobody ever followed me after law school. You hear about NALP, which is what's it called, like National Association for Law Placement, that puts out statistics about employment rates. Well, after I graduated from Georgetown, nobody ever contacted me to find out how little I was making or whether I had a job or whether I had passed the bar. And they certainly knew where I was. I mean, even to this day, somehow the school's alumni association and their fundraising groups, they still have tracked me down to North Carolina, and they know where to send stuff to me, and I still get their emails. But no, nobody from career services or whoever keeps track of the statistics for employment ever asked me, do you have a job at the time of graduation? No, I did not have a job when I graduated. But luckily I did get a job within probably about a month or two after graduating. And I mentioned in one of the other videos that my starting salary was really pathetically low, working for a small law firm near Tyson's Corner in Virginia. I was making less than $30,000 a year, no benefits. And I was also supposed to get a percentage of the how much we made off of the cases that I handled, but of course I didn't get the really great profitable cases. And later on, when I had to move to North Carolina, unfortunately the partner there then decided to cut my commissions because he didn't think I should take away so much money if I was going to leave the job. And since it was my first job out of law school, I really needed him to be a reference for me, and felt like being a nice person, so I didn't raise a stink about the fact that I was being stiffed out of commissions that I had originally been promised. So I hear that happens a lot with people who work for smaller firms and then decide to leave. Oftentimes there is a fight over what cases are you going to take and what percentage of those cases are you going to get versus do those cases have to stay with them, or do they deserve part of the fees since the client came to you while you're still working for your previous firm? So these are just some of those issues. I'd be glad to discuss it further, but that will probably be yet another video. And from what I've been reading, you're not supposed to keep these YouTube videos too long because people have short attention spans, so I'll just stop it right here and maybe continue on when I get another chance. Thanks for watching this latest episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want me to evaluate whether you personally should go to law school, I'd be happy to listen to you. Let me know what your LSAT score is, your GPA, what you're thinking about doing, whether you're going to have to take out debt, and let me help you with that decision as to whether you should apply for law school or not. But in most cases, I think my answer is going to be no. You do not want to apply to law school in this climate.